Hello everybody and welcome back. My name is Kari and today I am doing my best books of 2020. There's quite a pile here, so it's going to be relatively quick. I don't want this to be 40 minutes. Starting with Sex in the Sea. This is a nonfiction. I did a whole review on it, so I will link that down below. But basically, it is a fantastic narrative. It goes through all the stages. It goes through many creatures. There we go. It goes through a myriad of different sea creatures and talks about their mating habits at different stages. It has pictures. It has fictional stories, basically, on the equivalent of courting. It's fantastic. So definitely go check that one out. I also include Grapes of Math by Alex Bellos in this, in part because my dad liked it, and my dad and I like some of the same stuff, but I don't know that I've ever recommended him a book, A, and B, I don't know that, at least as far as nonfiction especially go, we like the same stuff. But he really liked this book. So Grapes of Math I picked up for the title. I believe I did a review on this one too, so I'll link that down below. And it talks about various different types of math, like integrals, and I think he mentions the Fibonacci sequence or some version of it. Seahorse fractals was one of my favorite things in there. And how all of these different types of math come into our lives constantly without us knowing. And he talks about the actual math behind all of these concepts and all of these natural phenomenon, and it's amazing. Next we have How to Catch a Queen by Alyssa Cole. This is a romance. I read it on New Year's Eve, and oh my god, I loved it. It follows a young woman who, basically it's a Cinderella story for her, except that the king she marries, his advisors have this thing where his father never had a wife for more than 4 months because they're trying to find the one true queen. And so he doesn't expect to have a wife for more than 4 months. This takes place over 4 months. It's a romance, you can guess what's going to happen, but it's brilliant. There's politics in this, you can actually see the relationship really develop, it doesn't feel insta-lovey, and I loved the sex scenes because they were definitely steamy. This is just, it's phenomenal. Next we have A Polar Affair by Lloyd Spencer Davis. This is also a nonfiction about penguins, specifically in Antarctica. I mean, penguins are Antarctican, but I mean, I don't know, not penguins in Australia or something. At any rate, this is part science, part history, because it turns out that these penguins, the Adelie penguins, have been studied before during Victorian times. Except that the findings of the people who studied them up, or the one person, I guess, and technically the one person didn't really want to study them, he just sort of inadvertently studied them because he got stuck for a while, because that's what you do. But Davis studies these penguins on his own in the 90s, early 2000s, recently, and comes to all these groundbreaking conclusions. You know, they're necrophiliacs, they have gang rapes, like they have all sorts of things that really offend our morals as humans. And then he goes and discovers the diary of the person who studied them back in Victorian times, and realizes that that man made the same discoveries that Davis has made, except that he covered them up. Probably because of Victorian morals and the fact that they were very prudish. But I loved this book. I think it was hilarious. It is a brilliant story. It really takes you to the Antarctic, meaning you freeze. So I would probably say don't read this in the winter when you're already cold. Just a theory. But I loved it. Also, Abby, The Naming, made it on here by Alison Krogan. This is a story about a young girl who starts out as a slave and then gets rescued by a bard. There is a great good and a great evil, and she might be very important in defeating the great evil. So she and her mentor, the bard, I don't remember his name, Cadvan, go on a quest. This is the beginning of the quest. It is a 4-book series, and I am very excited to get to it. I think my favorite part about this one was the fact that it felt very Lord of the Rings-esque, but without the excessive description. Don't get me wrong, I love Lord of the Rings, and the descriptions are gorgeous, but this definitely moved faster. Next we have A Song of Wraiths and Ruin by Roseanne Brown. I also did a full review on this one, so go check that one out. It has trigger warnings, which I think are amazing and not spoilery at all, just to be clear. This is a story about a princess who wants to bring her mother back and a young man who wants to save his sister. Paths collide because he enters a competition to become the king, and she needs the heart of a king to bring her mother back. you can see where this goes. I thought it was fantastic. Absolutely loved it, and because I have a review, that's all I'm going to say on that. Oh, then we have a book that drove me to drink, which is Crescent City, House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J. Maas. This is an urban fantasy. It is her first adult work. Slow burn like you wouldn't believe. Like I said, it drove me to drink. The politics in this are fantastic. The relationship that grows between them, it's definitely enemies to lovers, and it's fantastic. I mean, not that they got to the loving part in this, but not the point. Absolutely loved it. Definitely looking forward to the second one. Next we have The 20th Wife by Indu Sundaresan. This is a historical fiction about Nur Jahan. So technically she's the aunt and stepmother of Shah Jahan. Complicated relationships. And Shah Jahan is the one who built the Taj Mahal for his wife Mumtaz Mahal, who was Nur Jahan's niece. I think this is brilliant. I love that time period in Indian history, predominantly because of the Royal Diaries series, and I found Jahanara through that, who is Shah Jahan's daughter. And so I loved going through it, and I love watching the way this woman sort of accepts the way her life has gone and accepts her position in society, but also never lets go of the fact that she wants to marry Jahangir. She is going to be empress. She doesn't know how, and she gets derailed a couple of times, but she is gonna get there, and I loved that. The atmosphere is incredibly lush and gorgeous, and the politics are beautifully written. Oh, this is the first ever book I read by Rincha Pecco, and I am so beyond glad I did. Wicked as You Wish. It is alternate reality US mixed with fairy tales. It's phenomenal. Oh my god. Ton of diversity, ton of rep in this, of all kinds. But even just on top of that, the reimaginings of these fairy tales and having them interact with an alternate United States was over the top amazing. Amazing, amazing, amazing. If you haven't picked it up yet, go. Next we have Today We Go Home by Kelly Estes. This is a book following two different women. One who fights for the Union during the American Civil War, 1861 to 65. Obviously she hides that she's a woman and goes as a man. And another who is a veteran of today's times. So I think she was in the Iraq War, which technically is a conflict, but we're not going to get into that right now. The modern day woman finds the diary of the 1861 woman, and it's basically them figuring out what their place is, dealing with PTSD and war and all of that kind of stuff. It is gorgeously done. It made me tear up, which doesn't happen often, and I loved it so, so, so much. Then we have Sleigh by Brittany Morris, which is a contemporary, which surprised me a little bit. It's also about computers, which also surprised me because usually I'm not into either of those things. But contemporary about a young black girl who creates this amazing, gorgeous game for black people to have a place where they can escape and pretend that they didn't get shafted by colonialism and white people. And then the game meets reality and shit hits the fan. So she has to deal with the consequences of her game in reality and everything that that entails. It is beautifully written, amazingly well done, and the role-playing game that she creates, oh my god, it's so cool. So cool. To be fair, I didn't get a lot of the references or really understand them because it's a game for black people. I think specifically black people in the diaspora. So, you know, all over. It felt like there were a lot of American references, or African American references in there. But as I mentioned, I didn't really fully comprehend them because that's not my culture or my people. I am very, very white, and that's okay. It is still an amazing, amazing book, and go pick it up. Next we have The Wrath of Dawn by Renee Ahdieh. This is a 1001 Nights retelling, and oh my god. I did not expect to like this as much as I did. Enemies to lovers. She obviously manages to survive. The politics are gorgeous. The characters' relationship is amazing. And I just adored this book so much. And the last book is technically a series because that's just who I am. And that is The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. I read all 3 of these, I want to say in about a month and a half, in large part because my friend Chelsea and I were pseudo-buddy reading the last 2 together. I think we each finished them in a week, but they were consequent weeks. It was weird. But anyway, we finished them. Oh my goodness. If you are looking for grimdark fantasy that looks at colonialism and imperialism and Chinese history and just rips you to shreds by the end of it, this is for sure it. It was amazing. The writing is gorgeous. The characters are fantastic. The ending will shred your soul. So, you are now forewarned. Trigger warnings for everything. But, those are my best books of 2020. I had a really good reading year. I read 269 books, somewhere around there. Largely because of COVID and I could listen to audiobooks a lot more. But those are definitely my top 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 17. Top 17 books of 2020. If you've read any of them, let me know what you think, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.